This is BBC One. Now, a party election broadcast by the UK Independence Party.
You might be asking, why talk about UKIP in the context of a local election? Well, whether we talk about post offices, whether we talk about rubbish collection, whether we talk about wind turbines or the new light bulbs we have to put in our houses, all of this now comes to us as a result of a mass of European Union laws and directives. And yet nobody wants to talk about it. The Conservative, Lib Dem and Labour parties would rather it wasn't discussed. They don't want you to know the extent to which our everyday lives are now decided by bureaucrats based over in Brussels.
The UK is putting increasing efforts into eco-friendly ways of disposing of our rubbish and recycling. But EU bureaucracy means that councils have no control over the best way to recycle. By 2020, the EU's landfill directive tells us that around half of UK waste has to be diverted from landfill. And to make sure councils do it, they've imposed a UK landfill tax of £32 for every tonne of waste your council brings to a site. This is one of the reasons why your council tax has gone up, why rubbish collections have been reduced in many parts of the country to once a fortnight. Despite strong local opposition, some councils are installing computer chips in wheelie bins in preparation for charging for the rubbish you put in. And from 2010, the landfill tax goes up substantially to between £150 and £200 per tonne. The UK Independence Party wants to free local councils to do what they were elected to do, to make the best decisions, to provide the best quality services at the best prices. It's impossible with the layers of bureaucracy and directives from Brussels. Over 100,000 new regulations have come into force since 1972 as a direct result of Britain's EU membership. UKIP says enough is enough. We want to leave the EU and trade with them, not be taken over by them. The EU insists that the size of postal market reserved for national monopolies has to be reduced, and that the UK government would need permission to grant any state aid. So in 2003, the British government signed away the Royal Mail's right to control its own finances, when a deal limiting government grants to help them was struck with the EU. As the post office's debt has increased, our government is powerless to help any further. The result? The closing of ever more post office branches across the country. The list goes on and on. With unemployment rising steadily, the effect of EU law is being felt more strongly locally every day, and there's nothing our councils or the British Parliament can do about it. Over 75% of our laws are made in Brussels. But one area of European legislation affects local councils more than any other. In the list of countries in the EU receiving migrants, we are top of the list. The signs of population growth are evident throughout the UK, not just in the cities. Have you noticed how many more traffic jams you're caught in? How much harder it is to get your children into your choice of school? Seen cutbacks in local health services? Too many people chasing too few resources. The right of entry into Britain has been granted to all states, including the newest EU members, such as Bulgaria, Romania, Latvia, Slovakia and Slovenia, to name but a few. Local councils just can't cope, and the cash has to come from somewhere. So, higher council taxes from you. Britain pays £40 million a day to be a member of the EU. How many more local hospitals would that buy? How many new or renewed schools? How many more police, nurses, carers for the old and vulnerable? Think of the possible cuts in council taxes. With the banking crisis and recession accounting for billions of pounds of central government cash, there's less money for local services. Now, more than ever, we need to be getting value for our money.
So I want you to use these elections to go out there to vote UK Independence Party and to send our politicians at every level a message that they simply won't be able to forget.
Call 0800 587 6587. Calls are free from most landlines. Some networks and mobile operators will charge for these calls.
That was a party election broadcast by the UK Independence Party.